Welcome to Binging the Force with the Rocky Mountain Found Force, a live stream event. My name is James. This is a place where Star Wars friends get together, rewatch Star Wars shows, and discuss Star Wars content. Tonight I'm joined by my friends Dale, Jonathan, Cory, and Michael. Michael's our producer dude for the show. Tonight we're going to be watching Season 2, Chapter 13, Voyage of Temptation. And this particular episode revolves around Obi-Wan and Satine and kind of their past relationship. It's one of the underlying things of the episode, and it got me thinking about the Jedi Code and kind of the monastic kind of setup that it had for them. And some of the things of the code, they emphasize that you need to have detachment, emotional detachments. You can't really be in love relationships and those type of things, with the theory that it would lead you to the dark side if you had some of those emotional type things going on in your life. So I want to throw this question out to the panel, and with the underlying theme that we're talking about tonight in this particular episode, especially between the past relationship between Obi-Wan and Satine, I think they hint at a romantic relationship. But what do you guys think of the Jedi Code, and specifically the detachment, or this idea that they can't have love relationships or emotional relationships with other beings in the case of Star Wars?
I'm gonna.
Bill, what do you? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say that I don't see it working. I see and I think the saga kind of went this direction and kind of showing the downfall, of the Jedi, and then that kind of rebuilding of the Jedi. That you have to have everything integrated. I mean, you can't just deny that part of your emotional life and then have a fully embraced, relationship with the universe, essentially. In order to really fully embrace your love of the universe and your love of all living beings, romantic attachment has to be part of that. And I kind of think we've seen that through the saga, that can be the downfall of the Jedi.
Yeah, I think for me, in talking about how you're supposed to have this detachment from emotion and love, it just makes me so angry when they do that. So I don't know why they think that would lead you to the dark side.
Okay, anger led to hate. Yeah,
fear leads to anger.
Yeah, see, there's balance. No, but seriously, so I agree with Michael. I think that you have to have full range of emotions, because then like you see in the sequel trilogy, look at Rey, right? Luke still has problems, but he had problems initially. He was raised in this environment where he was away from the monastic order part of the Jedi, and he was whiny, but his character developed and he turned into pretty awesome, be able to do action hero type stuff for Return of the Jedi. But I think that nobody would fault him as a bad Jedi, because he still had those attachments to his sister and wanting to know about his mother. I think he was still a good Jedi for that, right? And so I think that it's like when you cut off part of yourself, you don't have that ability to really live a full and healthy life. So I just think that the problem wasn't being detached from emotions. The problem was all the other things that they were doing to Anakin in the prequel trilogy.
Ooh, Mr. Carter. Ooh,
Cory.
Okay,
Cory.
I'm going to push back on both of you here. Okay? Jedi been around I'm going to bring it, Jonathan. The Jedi have been around for 1,000 years, right? 1,000 generations.
1,000,
right?
yeah.
1,000 generations.
Yep.
You don't think by now that they don't know that their code works exactly how it should, except for when humans become involved in becoming the Jedi Order, because humans are emotional. What if you are a species who has no attachment for emotion? That is it's hard to say the word Vulcan, but
Vulcan Jedi, yeah.
So I'm totally for the code. Now, that's not to say that if you are human and you are very disciplined as a Jedi, like say Master Windu, even if you had an attachment, you would know when the line draws. You can still have this affection or love for another human being or another alien species. Doesn't matter. But if you are disciplined enough to be able to work between those two, remember Obi-Wan said to Luke, your emotions do you credit, but they can be used, to serve the Emperor. So yeah, good, have your emotion, but control it. Don't let anybody, don't let yourself become a victim of that emotion. So, Jonathan.
No, but look at, let's say Obi-Wan and Satine did have a relationship, hypothetically,
He's human,
right? He's human, but you know what? Obi-Wan as a person is able to be disciplined enough.
Yeah, he is.
I think he would have been disciplined enough to be able to have that relationship and have it be a success.
Because
it's more the person instead of this creed that you have to follow.
Yeah, I think
let's table part of that, specifically the Obi-Wan and Satine, till after the episode, because I think we can talk about it a little bit more after the episode.
yeah. I think discipline is probably a good word for it, because they absolutely have to be able to show compassion for their fellow man. But when Yoda says something like hate leads to suffering, well, in Obi-Wan's case, it's not hate, but it's remorse. It's this wanting to have these attachments, and knowing because he chose the order, that's a lot more difficult. That he's kind of walk a fine line as far as what things he can really care about and what's too far. But he is able to be disciplined to know the difference.
Yeah, but look at how Obi-Wan is in Revenge of the Sith, right? Like, you can tell he's attached to Anakin. He loves him like a brother. Those are his words, and
he says that to him. Yeah,
yeah. During when he's having to cut down Anakin, like he didn't fall to the dark side in that moment, but you could tell how passionate and emotional he was because of what he was being torturously going through, right? So I think that it's, like I said, it's more the person instead of a creed. So like Obi-Wan could be able to handle it, but maybe there were people who couldn't, and so they had to create these rules, and they don't work for everybody, but they felt like they still had to have this dogma.
Obi-Wan held all the way up to the end. No, I agree, but at the end, he did leave Anakin completely taken down. I was like, hey, the code matters, and I love you, but I'm going to subdue you. And he does. And he walks away, man.
And he walks away.
Even when he loved.
That's a whole nother argument about the walking away.
Okay, I'll shut up now.
He takes his stuff first.
He robs him. Yeah.
Like, well, you're not going to need this without your hands, so.
Okay, so it's good discussion.
There's a good discussion. Yeah, thanks for. I think the way I look at it is I think as hard as the Jedi try to follow this code to the strict letter, I think many of them don't, because I think actually most of the Jedi care about other living beings, right? Yoda talking about the Force flowing through nature and stuff like that. I think there is an emotional part. It's not just some monastic, you have to follow this or you're kicked out. I don't know. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, there's lots of good Jedi who do have those kinds of emotions and passions, and they don't get kicked out of the order. It's more just like the situation surrounding Anakin when he started, led them to like use that rule against him more than anybody else.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah.
Good.
Very cool.
Great discussion. Michael, you want to go ahead and take us into the episode?
Okay. Yep.
Season 2, Chapter 13.
All right. Due to absolutely no popular demand, I'm happy to read the newsreel again here after our fortune cookie.
I demand.
Still not popular, but individual.
Demanded by the gods it is.
A royal welcome. Sent to investigate allegations that Mandalore was joining Count Dooku's separatists, Obi-Wan Kenobi was reunited with an old friend, the Duchess Satine of Kalevala. While Satine claimed Mandalore's intentions were to remain neutral during the war, An attack on the capital city led Obi-Wan to the discovery of a terrorist organization known as Death Watch. Now the Duchess travels to the Senate so she can plead her case against her involvement in the war as the Jedi prepare a defense against her opponents.
I don't know if the newsreels do air quotes, but
They should.
but yeah, so we're now on the ship where they're basically heading to Coruscant, right?
Yeah, it's
We're
a big ship.
basically-
It seems like it's like a city. Like it seems like it's the Senate building or something. It's big enough.
Yeah, the ship looks really small when they fly off, but it's quite expansive. It seems
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, it does have a lot of levels and very large cargo hold.
It's a Doctor Who ship, right?
I was just going to say,
Much bigger on the inside.
it's
Yeah.
a police call box.
But yeah, it's also got it's a bunch of representatives from. I would imagine it's a bunch of the worlds that are kind of joining with Satine, or maybe debating with Satine about whether to remain neutral in the war.
We missed it. So that was where Obi-Wan said, I knew her a long time ago. And Anakin's like, sure.
Well, and an important thing underlying this from Anakin's point of view is Anakin is very, very, very interested in the relationship between Obi-Wan and Satine because
Oh,
he
yes.
kind of has a secret marriage at the moment. So
Yeah.
He doesn't want,
He's clearly
he doesn't
given
want
into
his mentor to
attachment.
be seen as a hypocrite.
Yeah,
He's all about bending the rules. Just
yeah.
like
That scene is a good callback to the beginning of Attack of the Clones, where it's kind of flipped, where it's Anakin is so, it has all these feelings about Padme on the turbo lift. We've got our best conversations between those two all happening on an elevator, I guess.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
he
he's
picks up on it.
made his decision at the end of Attack of the Clones, and Obi-Wan just doesn't know that.
Well, he picks up on it in the elevator, though. He's like, "You're nervous. Like, what's all this emotion coming from you, emoting from you?"
Right.
I think Anakin sees the same or feels the same thing when they are together in front of Satine, and so it is a total flip flop. Absolutely, they're brothers.
So she said she's the regent for 1,500 systems,
Mm-hmm.
not just planet Mandalore like
Correct.
that. I didn't realize it was that extensive.
Neither did I.
Yeah, so basically she's speaking for a lot of planets. I mean, that's, we kind of see in more of a micro view of this conflict between the separatists and the Republic, but it is an interstellar conflict. It's really, affecting the entire kind of galactic, core and rim and all the systems in between. It's thousands of worlds that are potentially involved in this conflict, some of them staying out of it, and a lot of them taking sides between the separatists and the Republic, even though it all seems to be done, it's all these planets involved, and the only battles are between droids and clones. So I don't know what part they take in it other than funding the droids and clones potentially. But it's not like any of them are being asked to like send their teenagers to go and fight the war for them.
Yeah, and the Clone Wars show really likes to delve into this philosophy of pacifism, war, multiple sides and a conflict, who's right, who's wrong. Like they're talking about here, and fighting for peace, right? Like Duchess Steven's kind of mocking Anakin a little bit for that, and that's a recurring theme here. And I think it's good because for a lot of people, this may be their introduction to those types of concepts if they're young, and Star Wars may be their gateway into some of those ideas.
Well, and Satine's really challenging Obi-Wan on, because he is part of this Jedi Order, which supposedly was dedicated to peace, but is now the generals of this war. The peacekeeping force of the Jedi have now become the active participants, the generals commanding the clone army, in one side of a war, of a conflict. And she kind of challenges, well, I knew you when you were younger, Obi-Wan. I know what your ideals are. Do you really think that your side in this conflict and the part that you're playing as a Jedi jibes with who you were when you were young, as a Jedi?
It's a real confrontation by her to his beliefs and where his loyalties lie at this point in the war.
Yeah, does fighting for peace really represent what the ideals of a Jedi should be?
Well, it's total as she said, a total contradiction to what you say you are, but I know you to be.
Yeah. Again, we were talking about the code, but does it really address whether the Jedi should take sides in a conflict, right? are they really maintaining peace by becoming generals in the clone
Well,
army? So,
I would jump here real quick. It's almost like literally art imitates life, man. And right now, the tribalism in this country is obscene. And like they think that they're right, and other side thinks that they're right. And this is the same thing going on here. And in any war, almost look at Ukraine right now, not to get off, but I mean, like both sides think they're right. The same thing with separatists. They think that they're right to do this. They think the Jedi are evil. That they're wrong. They've lost their way. You know, the Republic relies too much on the Jedi. I mean, you can see the points being made and why they're being made. If you can, if you can be objective, you can go, you know what? It kind of makes sense.
Well, it all goes back to kind of some of the themes that we were exploring in the earlier episodes with Tales of the Jedi and Dooku, in terms of him seeing where the Jedi were kind of going astray, and had some good points in that the Jedi as being just representing the active physical arm of the Senate and the will of the Senate was not necessarily what the Jedi should be, that just acting as just blindly doing what the Senate instructs them to do, is not necessarily what the Jedi should be doing. And that was kind of Count Dooku's point, and why he kind of split off, and why he was swayed to the dark side. Of course, even he didn't know. And you're saying, two sides and the separatists, believing what they believe. We know that it's all a manipulation by one person.
Sure.
I think we got a real good chance to see the Jedi working as they are known as the peacekeepers in Episode 1, when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan go to the Trade Federation to basically force the surrender, or stop doing the blockade. They were just there to keep the peace, but no, this is the right thing. You can't block this system, and we're here to make sure that you don't. And that was that. They weren't going to kill them.
Yeah. When Mace Windu says, we're keepers of the peace, it's not the Jedi's fault that they are the best option to keep that peace. So if they don't see someone else that's able to keep the galaxy kind of in line, that's where that soldier role comes in, where they're like, okay, well, we will kind of lead whatever military there is, because there's no better option in our mind.
Just still, I mean, it's not the last time we'll go over this point, but I mean, it's just the fact that it's all comes down to the manipulation of one person, of one person who so astutely saw the flaws in the system and how to manipulate them, and how to really work them to his eventual ends, and play both sides, against each other, all to his goal,
Diabolical.
Yeah. I mean, really, he's really the smartest figure in the whole saga,
I mean, plus you also kind of realize, I mean, these factions, these, two different belief systems about society, all you really had to do was just kind of nudge it a little bit, right? I mean, you didn't have to take as active a role.
It didn't take a lot of work,
It didn't take a lot of work, exactly. And so, to follow some of Cory's parallels, that's true in our society as well, right? Sometimes all you got to do is just kind of nudge a group or people in one way or the other, and ugliness comes out, man. But I just want to be shipping. I want to be shipping Satine and Obi-Wan here. So like we saw here, he's like, she went back to rebuild her world. I could have gone with her. That would have been problematic. Talking about Jedi Code. What if he did, right? Like, how different would the Star Wars universe have been if Obi-Wan decided that he was going to stay with Satine and see how things worked out?
So kind of switching gears here, and that what's in front of us is that all this political stuff and everything, and now we're essentially shifting into the movie Aliens, where they're constrained on a ship, and they're in a confined space, and there's now an attack of these like very creepy spider droids kind of thing, which as an arachnophobic that I'm not really thrilled about. So
either.
Yeah, these droids are cool.
They're in darkness too.
What was that, Dale?
Those droids are cool, and we see they can do a lot. They do a lot more than you expect just by looking at them, including interrupt dinner here. Rude.
Right.
They're enjoying some Nuna, which we first see in Phantom Menace. Jabba has some up on his booth during the pod race.
Yeah, and here, just when you think you've stopped it, you've destroyed the big droid, and like there's little tiny ones.
Right.
Watch out for the tiny creepy ones.
Yeah, it's always with the creepy spiders.
Aliens.
That's
You
nuts.
just stomp on them or something.
I mean, at least in Aliens, it was like big ones that you could shoot at really easily.
You gotta give the Trade Federation the props, man. Their droids
They're
rock.
creative, yeah.
They're so deadly.
Yeah.
See,
I like the little
I don't know
gun
if they're
there.
fighting, but there's
Yeah.
there's some
They
good
they seem like they're enjoying it, actually, don't they?
right.
Like old times.
Yeah,
Satine stole the noisy cricket from Men in Black.
nice. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. They do have a very similar parallel relationship to Anakin and Padme in terms of like the back to back and like really working together as a team and clearly have a backstory with each other.
Some sexual tension.
Yeah, unquestionably. Those things creep me out, man.
Yep. Today it's Chat GPT. Tomorrow it's little spider droids all over your
Don't,
dinner.
no.
Don't even say that. That's not even funny, Dale.
No, it is not even funny. I do block people on Facebook for putting pictures up.
Uh,
Yeah, right. Yeah, true. I just see droids moving by themselves and doing things.
I like that little deactivator thing she has, but it's it really would only be effective against a droid, an attack from a droid. If it was a human, it's not going to do any good.
Maybe it has two switches. You can
Those had to be
stun. You can stun the human or so the biological being or something.
Gotcha. You can switch from deactivator to activator and shock people.
Whatever the plot.
Always cool when we get a protocol droid thrown in here.
Well, there's lots of them,
Yeah.
Yeah, cargo manifest requires protocol droid. I can see that. Nobody's here sweeping up the mess. Come on, clone troopers. Other duties as assigned.
Yep. So we know we've got a traitor in our midst. So we know at least one of the people who supposedly are peaceful and talking with Satine about stuff here that you actually brought these droids aboard and with the intention of assassinating someone, most likely Satine.
Yeah, I like this scene because the episode now switches to like a Agatha Christie kind of a story.
Yeah, Knives Out. All of a sudden, like 3 minutes of Knives Out here.
Yeah.
Just without a flashback.
Right.
Dessert. Excellent.
Delicious.
Yeah.
It's like a reveal from like Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom here.
Oh,
Yeah, I like Orn Frita's his little entourage of ladies earlier, but I guess he doesn't bring them to dinner. This is just for official business.
Hopefully, he brings back a box of leftovers.
that rascal. Oh, Senator Ta.
No, Mr.
Ladies'
I
man.
want you to die.
Totally. About as much of a ladies' man as Jabba. Okay. Yikes.
Now we'll see who does the droid not want to kill?
Sounds like a pretty good plan. I mean, it sounds like something Dooku would have done.
Yeah.
I should have looked up. Do we know who's the bad person here, the bad senator who
I don't know who he is.
played by?
It's Greg Proops.
Oh, Greg Proops.
So
Okay.
last week
Right.
he just had one line, but now
Right. Okay. Yeah, you mentioned that in the last episode. That like, why would you get Greg Proops for just one line? Well,
Oh, it's loose. It's loose.
and Obi-Wan with the backhand serve. All right.
so in other words, in the last episode with Greg
Kill it,
Proops,
kill it, kill
whose
it.
line was it anyway?
Right.
Uh-oh. Don't touch my woman. I'll do it.
And a run down a hallway. Remember, people can't. If we're not talking, then people don't know what we're
What we're watching, oh, that's true. Yes, right. Yes.
So Anakin has his own like little side story, taking on the killer droid downstairs.
Sure. Splitting the plot.
Yep. We kind of literally have 2 levels of story, 2 levels of ship going on.
Right.
Well, that's pretty common with the Clone Wars. I would say at least half the episodes do that to keep you, interested. And let's face it, almost every episode of the Clone Wars is very interesting.
But this time it literally translates to the physicality of multiple levels on the ship.
Yeah.
True. Yes, you're being literal.
Yeah. There's definitely some scale to this ship. Like a yacht or a train or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah, that was cool. Like flinging the lightsaber.
Yes. Oh, look at that! It's just brutal.
Yeah, serious clone action there.
To the brain.
Get all the little ones before they can pop out.
Shouldn't they have locked down the bridge here, right? Like
They never locked down the bridge. There.
yeah, I think Star Trek they would have locked down the bridge.
He really kills a lot of people here. He's just going all out.
Yeah. Senator Merrick is a crack shot. You see that? He like took those eyes out like no time.
He's committed to his cause.
I mean, bridge security, clearly a galaxy far, far away. They haven't learned to secure the cabin yet.
No.
Well, those senators, they have so much power. They can just go anywhere.
Yep.
And so Anakin's still asking about the relationship, and Obi-Wan's, I don't see how that's important right now, but it's very important to Anakin.
Awkward, but hey, when else is he going to ask, right?
Yeah, he still really wants to understand the relationship here. I mean, obviously he's got his own agenda.
Death Watch.
And then, we see that, that he's connected to Death Watch, so we're routing back to the first episode there.
Yeah. The animation for this hologram, they didn't have it ready in time to have his full armor, so they just put him in a cloak. They're like, that's what he looks like from the neck down.
That's some thinking on your feet. Yay, the production people.
I think he was in a cloak last episode too, right? Didn't he have a cloak on his back?
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
But it wasn't covering him all the way around the front.
No, it was not.
It was just kind of a half thing on a shoulder back there.
Dramatic. More, Lando. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is awesome. Like suddenly there's this super battle droid attack.
Yeah.
Where do these guys come from?
Right. Well, they like spiked him in there. I feel like those spikes would make the ship like not space worthy, and people would start getting sucked out of the holes they came in.
Oh, Dale, stop being so literal.
Yeah.
Operates
This isn't science. This is
It made me think of Alien. I'm like, hey, it happens in Alien.
Sure.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
That's right.
That was
Like,
on the
my
poster of
girlfriend.
Alien.
I mean,
People who
for
don't
the
remember
Duchess.
that.
Yeah, well, he has to be careful, He doesn't want to lose her.
I miss the days of movie posters that had like those amazing taglines on it from the 70s. Like, Alien, it was in space, no one can hear you scream. The original Superman movie in 1978 is You Will Believe a Man Can Fly.
Right, yeah. Awesome stuff.
Did they still do that with like the Sharknado or Cocaine Bear? Did Cocaine Bear have a tagline?
It's definitely a lost art. I mean, that's definitely like a tagline on the poster like that is not a thing anymore.
Right.
Well, that's when we only had that kind of advertisement. There was no social media. You wouldn't see it on TV or anything. You would only see it in the theater usually.
Yeah.
All right. After this podcast, we'll workshop.
Very important exchange here. Yeah. So here's and it's like is this a distraction is this a delay, or is this like the real conversation? Is her saying that I actually did love you, and Obi-Wan? And here's the important thing. Here's Obi-Wan saying, I would have left the Jedi Order if you had just said the word.
Yeah, well, she's almost facing death, so maybe she's coming forth with her true feelings because she may not live much longer.
And I think it's both. I think they are delaying him. They are trying to like stall him, but they're actually speaking the truth to each other.
Yeah, there's an effect of that they're telling maybe their true feelings.
So sneaky.
But that's huge. I mean, if you had just said, you wanted me, I would have left the Order. He would have made that decision. I mean, it was a decision he made to be in the Order, but he would have chosen to walk away from it for her.
But notice how he said, I would have left the Order. I wouldn't stay in the Order. We're going to hang out.
No, it's very clear. I mean, he's not going to – I mean, he believes in the code, so it's an either or for him. He can either choose the path of choosing attachment, of choosing, a person to love with and have a life with, or the Order. He can't have both. He could have a relationship with her because, I think we've established between this – and Attack of the Clones that Obi-Wan's kind of a player. He's had relationships with people, but there's a difference between having time with someone and having an attachment and having an actual basically what Anakin's done. What Anakin's done is form an attachment and actually, breaking the code. Obi-Wan never broke the code.
Anakin was almost like the comic relief here. He just puts the saber through the guy's chest and like totally stops the moment.
Yeah.
And he's just like, yeah, I killed him, whatever. Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They're like all debating it. It's like all a big deal for them. It's like for Anakin or for Obi-Wan and Satine, it's like they're all stressing about it and everything. And Anakin, it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna kill the guy. It was the right thing to do in the moment.
Anakin's like, well, if no one else is going to, I'll do it. I'll gladly do it. And
Exactly.
then if you listen to the music in that scene, it does play Darth Vader's theme after he stabs him through the chest
Nice.
there.
Yeah, death by 1,000 cuts. Well, dark side by 1,000 cuts, right?
Yeah, I have most of the Star Wars or most of the Clone Wars music, but I know not every little piece of it is in there.
Sure.
And a job well done, Master Jedi.
Oh yes.
Oh, Orn Freeta's got his ladies back.
He's
He's got a reputation to uphold, man. He's got to keep him on his side. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Obi-Wan said he would have left the order, but I don't think I heard Satine said she would have leave Mandalore to make that relationship happen.
I think he knew.
Well, but you wouldn't have had to. I mean,
yeah, I think he knew that she would not, which is why he said he just told me to leave. I'd come to you.
Yep.
Yeah, he was ready to submit.
I love the beard.
Got
I'm not with her on that. She's still not sure about the beard. You know, to me, the beard.
Well, it doesn't move when she touches it, obviously. So
Right. Not yet. They're still not animating beards in season 2. Yeah.
yeah, well, maybe someday.
R2 had some cool moments there. We kind of missed R2's cool moments. We lost.
Yeah, he was a big help there, especially with that light.
R2 always at least tries.
Yeah.
He does good.
Dude, the whole saga just rotates around R2. Talking about.
Yep.
It's true. Yep.
Well, it was
we
a
get
fun
some
episode.
writing.
Good moments.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. What was that, Jonathan?
I said it was a fun episode. It had some good moments. I just think that the setting of the Separatists and Mandalore and Death Watch is good, but I think it's really the catalyst for what I think was the more interesting and passionate moment of that build up to Obi-Wan and Satine. Like, I think that was a good payoff for the episode when you get to hear Obi-Wan saying, I would have left the order. And you hear Satine being like, hey, yeah, you never know. But like, there's so much more that these episodes have to do in the grand scheme of things that like, this turns out to be more of a character moment instead of something they could have spun off of and make it into like, you know, a Twilight movie or something.
But I mean, all against the backdrop of an absolutely fun, action-packed, you know, stuck in a ship with you know things that are trying to kill you, you know, big action adventure, but with those multiple levels, levels again. I mean, multiple levels of actual action, multiple levels of themes of story, and all that kind of stuff, all within one 20-minute episode. I mean, there's really a lot up in there.
These episodes, these animated episodes, are really dense. There's a lot of things going on. There's some political intrigue there. There's some political philosophies. You know, we're talking about the Jedi Code, you know, and what that means, and this relationship between Satine and Obi-Wan.
And Anakin poking, right? Yeah. Anakin wants to know a little more. Figure out where one's boundaries were and are.
I love the Clone Wars for the fact that it really gets into the nooks and crannies of everything that we had ever hoped for. The first time we ever heard, yes, I was once a Jedi Knight, and I was in the Clone Wars. What's that?
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
You know, and then, I mean, to have it here, we are, how many years later now? What, 40 years later? We're still peeling back layer after layer of this story.
Yeah.
Blow my mind, man. I love it so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave Filoni. That's right.
Yeah. That
Dave was the spirit.
That episode. Really good writing there. Paul Dini was the main writer for that one.
Really?
So got his Star Wars feet wet back with Ewoks and droids back when the plot didn't really matter as much. You know, he's a writer and producer on those. And even like some of the Ewoks episodes where the Empire showed up, like those were his episodes. And then he wrote 3 episodes for Clone Wars. This was the last one he did. They wanted him to do more, but apparently he was moving on to other projects. But yeah, a little bit of Paul Dini.
In between, he wrote and created a little show called Batman the Animated
Yeah,
Series.
thank you. Yeah, that's I skipped over that. Yes, Tiny Toons, and then Batman the Animated Series, definitely the big
Yeah,
one
I mean,
there.
there were two people who were the main producers and were the overseers of that show. He was the Dave Filoni of
He really was.
in the
Yeah,
animated.
it's hard not to love Batman the Animated Series and not love Paul Dini because he was a huge power behind that.
Yeah. And married a magician who actually literally looks like Zatanna and performs as a character, as really as a live action Zatanna. So
Wow.
you got to love Paul Dini.
That's hardcore.
That is hardcore.
Wow. So why didn't Anakin never dropped a line like Obi-Wan's where he would leave the order like that? That's never a consideration for Anakin. He always wants to have it both ways.
Yeah, he does.
Well, and I mean, there's a question of had he had a more. I get it all comes back to some of the what I would call fatal flaws, along the way in not of the story, but in the story that had it not been Obi-Wan, who wasn't really ready to be the person to train him, had it been Qui-Gon, who actually had been the person training him as intended, would there have been a different relationship between him and Anakin? Whereas with Obi-Wan, who really wasn't necessarily ready, they don't have what they should have had, which was a more open dialogue that maybe if Anakin had been more open about his feelings about Padme, that wouldn't have been as easily manipulated and influenced by, Palpatine.
Well, I think Qui-Gon would have had way more intuition with Anakin and his feelings and his emotions. And
I think so.
Correctly.
I think he had the experience where he would have been more aware, and so it makes it that much more significant, the loss of Qui-Gon and not being the person to train him. That that while Obi-Wan made the decision to do it to honor his master, he really wasn't ready to do it. He had only he basically was just given the title of knight at that point. He really was not ready to be the person to train Anakin.
I don't think he believed Anakin was ready to be trained.
No, I mean he gave his reservations in Phantom Menace. He only did it to honor Qui-Gon. So I mean, it really is this series of missteps, that kind of put Anakin in a place where he was so much more easily manipulatable by Palpatine.
Oh, humans were so flawed.
And it's not just the missteps too. Like Anakin's inherent personality, because of the environment that he was in on Tatooine, like attachment is his life.
Yeah.
Right. Like he's surrounded by nothing, and he just has this attachment to his mom.
Right.
And he goes from that attachment to being attached to Qui-Gon for what little time he was able to, and then having that attachment transferred to Obi-Wan. So like when you live by your attachments, ergo when it comes to this decision that he's got to make, do I stay attached to the Jedi Order, attached to Obi-Wan, attached to Padme? He never lets go of anything of his own volition. He never has that kind of emotional maturity to be able to realize leaving the nest is something I do, not something that is pushed upon me. So that's the reason why he doesn't even think could leave the Jedi Order and be happy with Padme. Because it's just not in his brain to make that kind of mature choice.
Yeah, it was not only, I guess, going all the way back to Tatooine and growing up as a slave and literally basically being tortured essentially, as his childhood. I mean, that's, the choice to give things up, is not something he's going to make.
Yeah.
Well, and most Jedi younglings are almost from birth taken from their parents.
Right.
And then probably the most disciplined Jedi in the universe are the ones who have zero attachments.
Right.
They can be trained that way.
Well, and that's obviously one of the reasons why that they do it that way. As much as we criticized it in a previous episode with the Ahsoka episode of Tales of the Jedi, about taking someone, essentially, at birth and taking them in, but it does help instill that lack of attachment in them.
Yoda was right when he said that Luke was too old. He was powerful. He didn't teach him, but Luke's attachments were his downfall.
Yep.
He redeemed himself.
But in our society, would you ever condone a monastic, society taking kids from families at such a young age and having them be, trained and grow up. I mean, that sounds like.
In fact, we do. It's called the Dalai Lama.
I was thinking it's called like African warlords who steal children from villages and then raise them in like a child army.
Soldier or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, we literally do that. I mean, it's a revered figure on in culture and society on this planet.
He's one. It's not a massive worldwide society that goes and picks kids and from families.
Sure. It's a
like
singular
that's horrible based on our morals as Earth-based society.
Right.
We have accepted that as a thing that that when the Dalai Lama dies, the monastic order picks the next Dalai Lama and literally takes them as an infant from their mother and raises them as children. Yeah, I know. It is something we do accept.
It's only fair to say though, the Jedi go to the parents and say, your child shows an adeptness in the Force, and he could become a great Jedi. If you would like this for your son or daughter, they would make, they would have an important role in saving the universe. They give the parents the option. I mean, it's not the same thing.
I don't know how many times have we seen that interaction.
We haven't.
How much it's optional, how much it's more strongly encouraged.
In the comics.
Otherwise, dun dun dun.
In the comics.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, but it's Legends now.
No, I know, but I'm just saying there's so much information out there. Yeah. That was one of the things that they definitely threw out there, and going back to even the Old Republic. So they, again, in their code, in their honor, even this part, getting a youngling is up to the parents. Because a child can't make up its mind.
Yeah, I mean, but we still haven't seen that in any of, or have
no,
we?
You haven't.
Between Rebels and Clone Wars and all the other stuff, have we seen that?
What about Rebels?
The episode of Ahsoka. Do they go to the parents? I can't remember.
Oh, the Tales of the Jedi, the other one.
Yeah, Tales of the Jedi.
We don't see the Jedi come and get her, though.
Yeah.
I think we did see Plo Koon going and getting Ahsoka, and I think it was, I don't know if it was a Rebels episode, but we did see it in a Star Wars TV.
Yeah, I just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, that was in Clone Wars, and then there was some of that in Rebels, and then one of those Tales from the Jedi that we saw where there was, the infant. But what's so funny is, the writing for back in for the original trilogy, when Yoda does give that line, no, he's too old. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what's wrong with this guy? He's mature enough. He can make a decision. He's already proven himself. He wants to learn. Train this guy. But then they wrote Phantom Menace in a way where Yoda says, agree with the council. I do not. He knows better. He knows they have to start him young, because if they don't, their mind is warped in a way that doesn't work out for the order.
Yeah, I think the Jedi are ultimately undermined by this dogmatic approach to their code, and that you have to do it this way and stuff. And I think it's interesting when we go into the Gray Jedi, and these are kind of a little more complex people. They're they have a foot in both sides. They're almost like a anti-hero in certain respects. But yeah, I think that the Jedi, they kind of almost do themselves in by this approach. And we've seen I think religious organizations, right, become so rigid and so I guess you could say the Catholic Church and the priests, and maybe the issues that it created for child abuse and stuff like that. So,
well, James, you're bringing up some heavy topics here.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I don't know that we want to go there.
Oh, it's a fair comparison. So,
no, again,
a lot to talk about. Good episodes.
Good episode.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm just curious. Are we going to watch
the third part?
Are we going to watch any more of the Clone Wars? Because there's still more to see there, right?
We're still going. This is the second part of a 3-part story. So,
yep. We'll be back for the rest of this story next week. Season 2, episode 14, Duchess of Mandalore. So clearly more Satine coming up next week.
Sounds good.
Hopefully more Obi-Wan and Satine shipping going on next week too. We'll find out.
Well, thanks everyone. That takes us right around 45 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and take us out. And we'll
Awesome.
Thanks
Thanks,
for joining
everybody.
us, guys.
see y'all next
Bye-bye.
week.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.